Commander Lyra Hale stepped through the entrance of the Joint Interstellar Academy's training hall, her boots making quiet taps against the smooth silver floor. Even after a full year of serving as Earth's combat arts instructor, she still felt a spark of pride every time she entered this place. The Academy was one of the few institutions in the galaxy where species from dozens of worlds came together to learn, argue, laugh, and grow stronger side by side. But today was not going to be simple, because today was the first day she would train a new group of alien cadets who, unfortunately, had already formed a very strong opinion about Earth and its fighting techniques. She could hear their voices even before turning the corner into the arena. "It looks so tiny," one said, his chitinous legs tapping lightly as he paced. It was Kirill, a Varkai with bright orange plates that gleamed under the hall lights. "Tiny? It looks like something built for children," another added, her voice soft but sharp, like vibrating glass. That was Saren of the Luminar species, a being whose body was made of crystal-like material that glowed brighter when she felt certain emotions right now. Annoyance and amusement. Juro, the third member of the group, gave a watery laugh, his amphibious form rippling with the motion. "Is this really Earth's arena? No gravity chambers? No energy barriers? Just floor?" He stretched a webbed hand and tapped the smooth surface with a finger. It made a dull, unimpressive sound. Kirill lifted his chin plates. "Maybe humans rely on loud noises to scare enemies instead of real strength." Juro laughed again. "Or maybe they meditate until their problems go away." Lyra listened quietly, unseen for the moment. The teasing didn't bother her. She had heard variations of it every year. Many species expected Earth's combat techniques to be flashy or overwhelming. They imagined humans as loud warriors who shouted their way into victory or ran on pure chaos and improvisation. They definitely did not expect Earth's training arena to be so plain. The arena was a wide room with smooth white walls, a single open floor, and no equipment besides marker lines. No advanced alien technology. No gravity manipulators. No shimmering energy fields. Just a room. To outsiders, it looked boring. But to Lyra, it was perfect. She stepped fully into the light, and the voices stopped. The cadets turned toward her, their confident expressions fading into surprise. Lyra was not tall compared to many humans, and she seemed even smaller when standing next to the towering Varkai or the crystalline Luminar. Her black hair was tied back, and her uniform was simple standard Earth navy blue with a small crest over the heart. She did not look dangerous. She did not look like someone who could impress a hall full of aliens. She looked calm. "Good morning," Lyra said, her tone steady and polite. "I hear you have opinions about our training space." The three cadets exchanged glances. Saren's body flickered with shades of pale blue embarrassment. Kirill tried to recover first. "We were simply observing, Commander. The arena is unexpected." Juro nodded enthusiastically. "Very unexpected. I mean, very simple. Not in a bad way," he added quickly. Lyra's lips curved into a small smile. "Simplicity is not always weakness." Saren's glow dimmed. "But there is nothing here. How can Earth training be effective without anything?" Lyra walked toward the center of the room, her steps slow and gentle, because most fighters rely too much on their environment. When you remove the extra tools, you are left with only technique. And technique is what keeps you alive when everything else fails. She stopped and looked at the three of them. "Would any of you like to volunteer for a demonstration?" The cadets froze. It wasn't fear that held them still, it was uncertainty. They'd expected their human instructor to defend Earth's methods with speeches or excuses. They had not expected her to offer a demonstration with such confidence. Kirill clicked his mandibles. "A demonstration of what?" Lyra looked around the room, then down at her own feet. "Balance, leverage, force distribution." Juro tilted his head. "Those do not sound very exciting." Lyra raised an eyebrow. "Do you want exciting?" Juro hesitated. "Yes?" Lyra nodded once. "Then stand where you are. All three of you." The cadets obeyed, more curious than worried. Lyra stepped 5 paces away from them, stopping near one of the thick black lines painted across the floor. She inhaled deeply, her shoulders rising in a controlled movement. Everything about her posture changed, not with speed, but with precision. Her back straightened, her feet angled slightly, and her arms relaxed at her sides. Kirill frowned. "What stance is that?" "It looks like nothing." Saren's glow shifted. Her center of gravity changed. "I can feel it." Juro blinked. "Feel what?" "The stillness," Saren whispered. Lyra exhaled, the breath releasing slowly. Then she bent one knee, placing her right foot lightly against the floor. She didn't tense her muscles. She didn't swing her arms. There was no dramatic movement. No glow. No sound effect. She simply shifted her weight. The floor trembled. The cadet's eyes widened as a ripple of motion rolled outward from Lyra's foot, traveling across the surface like a wave of pressure. It wasn't violent. It wasn't loud. It was smooth and controlled, but powerful enough to make the entire arena shudder. A sharp crack echoed through the room, not the sound of breaking, but the sound of something opening. A thin line formed beneath Lyra's foot and began to spread, sliding across the floor like a clean fracture in polished stone. It ran in a straight path for nearly 20 meters, stopping precisely at the far edge of the training zone. The floor had split, not deeply, but clearly. A perfect seam now divided the arena into 2 smooth halves. Juro's mouth opened and closed like he'd forgotten how speaking worked. Kirill's mandibles shook. Saren's entire body glowed white with shock. Lyra lifted her foot and stepped back, as if nothing extraordinary had happened. "Now," she said gently, "let us talk about technique." The 3 cadets remained silent for several seconds. They all stared at the long, neat line carved into the arena floor. None of them had seen her use any special device. None had sensed energy manipulation or hidden technology. They had only seen a human stand still and move with impossible control. Finally, Saren said, "You did not even strike the floor." "No," Lyra agreed. "You did not channel energy," Juro whispered. "No," she answered again. Kirill stepped forward until he was near the seam. He knelt and touched the edge with one clawed finger. "This is not broken. This is separated, cleanly." Lyra clasped her hands behind her back. "Exactly." "How?" Kirill demanded, though there was more awe than challenge in his voice now. Lyra walked toward them, stopping at a comfortable distance. "By understanding how the body works. By mastering how force travels through joints, through the ground, and back again. Most beings rely on strength. Some rely on special abilities. Humans rely on principles." Saren's glow pulsed softly. "Principles that can split a floor," Lyra nodded. "If applied correctly." Juro stood and crossed his arms, though he was still shaking slightly. Can anyone learn that?" Lyra smiled, and this time it reached her eyes. "That is why I am here." Kirill shook his head in disbelief. "I thought humans won battles by shouting and improvising." "Some do," Lyra admitted. "But Earth's combat, arts, true arts, are built on centuries of discipline." Saren stepped closer. "Will we learn this technique today?" Lyra looked at each of them. "If you are willing to work, if you are willing to fail before you succeed, if you are willing to forget everything you think you know about fighting." Juro swallowed. "What if we break something?" Lyra chuckled softly. "The floor is designed for training, and I am here to guide you. Besides," she moved her hand gently across the air, as though brushing dust from an invisible surface. "Breaking is not the goal, control is." The cadets straightened. They weren't mocking anymore. Kirill stepped forward. "Commander Hale, we would like to learn." Saren nodded, her glow steady. "We apologize for our earlier comments." Juro bowed awkwardly, but sincerely. Lyra turned toward the center of the room and gestured for them to follow. The crack she had created shimmered faintly as they walked past it. A silent reminder of what simple technique could accomplish. In that moment, the cadets understood something important. Earth's training was not easy. It only looked easy. Lyra stopped at the exact position where she had stood earlier. The cadets formed a line before her, eager and uncertain. The hall felt different now, quieter, heavier, as if holding its breath. "Before we begin," Lyra said softly, "tell me why each of you is here. Not at the academy here, in this room. Why do you want to learn Earth techniques?" Saren spoke first. "Because what I saw was impossible," Juro added, "and because you did it without hurting anyone." Kirill crossed his arms. "And because I want to understand how a small movement can cause such a large effect." Lyra nodded. "Good. Curiosity is a strong foundation." She lifted her hand and pointed to their feet. "Your first lesson," she said, "is how to stand." The cadets blinked. "That is all?" Lyra smiled. "You would be surprised how many warriors forget how to stand." They did not understand yet, but they would. And as she began adjusting their positions, tilting their ankles slightly, shifting their weight, lowering their centers of gravity, the cadets realized that for the first time since arriving at the academy, they were truly learning something new, something only humans could teach. And the floor beneath them seemed to wait, silent and patient, for the next move. The training hall felt different the next morning, as though the air itself remembered what Commander Lyra Hale had done the day before. The clean crack she had created in the arena floor had already been repaired by the academy maintenance drones, but the cadets still stared at the spot where it once existed. They stood in a line as Lyra entered, each of them more alert than they had been on the first day. Kirill's chitin plates were polished. Saren's crystalline body glowed with steady white light instead of teasing blues. Juro stood with perfect posture. His normally relaxed webbed hands held stiffly at his sides. They all looked ready, perhaps overly ready. Lyra walked in with her usual calmness, carrying nothing but a small, musty brown training bag. She set it on the floor and stood in front of them. "I see you are prepared," she said. Juro nodded quickly, too quickly. "Yes, Commander. Completely ready." Saren added. "We practiced standing last night." Kirill straightened proudly. "For 2 hours." Lyra blinked once. 2 hours? They nodded. "And what did you learn from that?" The three cadets exchanged glances. Saren's glow shifted faintly. "We learned," Juro said, "that standing is harder than we thought." Lyra's lips lifted in a tiny smile. "Good. That means you did it correctly." Kirill tilted his head. "Commander?" "Yes? Will we learn how to split the floor today?" Juro perked up. "Or make it shake? Even a little? Tiny shake?" Lyra remained expressionless for several seconds. Then she shook her head gently. "No." "Ah." All three shoulders dropped at the same time. Kirill sighed. "Not even a small crack?" Juro whispered, "Or soft vibration." Saren folded her hands. "We thought we were ready." Lyra clasped her own hands behind her back. "You think splitting a floor is difficult? That is the easy part." She looked at them one by one. "The hard part is preparing your body so you can do it without hurting yourselves, the building, or anyone around you." Saren's glow dimmed. "Hurting? Uncontrolled technique," Lyra explained, "can cause unintended consequences. You must learn control first, power later." The cadets looked at one another again. This time, they didn't seem disappointed, just thoughtful. Lyra stepped back and gestured toward the center of the arena. "Today, we practice movement." The alien cadets followed her with a mix of eagerness and curiosity. When they reached the center, Lyra stopped and pointed at the floor. "You will walk." Kirill blinked. "Walk?" Juro looked confused. "We already know how to walk." Saren nodded. "Yes, Commander. It is basic." Lyra folded her arms. "Then show me." Juro stepped forward first. He took a single long stride, letting his arms swing wide as he moved. His webbed foot slapped against the ground with a wet sound. Kirill followed, his movement heavy and loud, each step making a firm thud. Saren floated slightly above the ground as she walked, hardly touching the surface at all. Lyra waited for them to finish before speaking. "Again," she said. They walked again exactly the same way. Lyra shook her head. "Again." The cadets repeated the steps, but this time with confused expressions. They still didn't understand what she wanted. Lyra stepped forward and demonstrated. She walked slowly, her steps nearly silent, her movements so smooth they looked like water flowing. Every part of her body aligned with the next feet, knees, hips, shoulders, moving together instead of separately. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was loose. "That," she said softly, "is walking." The cadets stared. Saren whispered, "But that is different." "Yes," Lyra said, "because it is intentional." She pointed at Juro first. "You use too much energy in your arms. You throw your chest forward, making you lose balance." She pointed at Kirill next. "You stomp. Your weight goes down too sharply, so you cannot move quickly or quietly." Finally, she turned to Saren. "You float, so you avoid the floor, instead of letting it support you." Saren's glow brightened in surprise. "Avoid?" "Yes," Lyra said. "Touch the ground lightly. But touch it. Feel the surface. Let it guide you." The three cadets looked down at their feet, each reconsidering their own habits. Lyra took a step back. "Now try again." Slowly, Juro went first, focusing hard. He kept his arms closer to his body and tried to step quietly. His first attempt was clumsy, but Lyra nodded with approval. "Better." Kirill tried next. His heavy legs made soft thumps, but they were far softer than before. The Varkai frowned, unused to moving gently. Saren floated down slightly, letting her heel touch the floor. Her glow turned soft and pale as she concentrated on the sensation. Lyra watched all three with a calm expression, correcting small mistakes with a gentle tap of her finger or a quiet word. They practiced for a long time, repeating the same slow steps across the arena until their earlier embarrassment transformed into understanding. After nearly an hour, Juro gasped, "Commander, my feet hurt." "That means you're using muscles you usually ignore," Lyra said. "A good sign." Kirill flexed his legs. "Everything feels strange. That means you are learning." Saren touched her glowing crystal forehead. "I feel balanced in a new way." Lyra nodded. "Exactly." When they had rested for a moment, she reached into her training bag and pulled out 3 small metal spheres, each the size of a fruit. They were completely smooth and shining. "What are these?" Kirill asked. "Balance weights," Lyra said. "You will carry them while walking." Juro looked nervous. "Carry? How?" "However you choose," Lyra answered. "But do not drop them." She handed one to each cadet. Kirill held his with both claws at first, then attempted to hold it with one. The sphere rolled and nearly dropped before he caught it again. Saren tried to float with it, but the sphere pulled her lower. She adjusted her posture quickly. Juro sniffed his sphere suspiciously. "Is it alive?" "No," Lyra said patiently. "Now walk." The cadets began their slow movements again. This time, with the added weight, their mistakes became clearer. Juro almost dropped his sphere 3 times within the first minute. Kirill's heavy steps grew unstable under the shifting weight. Saren floated unevenly, the weight dragging her slightly to one side. Lyra corrected them each time with gentle guidance. Their steps improved. Their balance improved. Their breathing steadied. The hall was filled only with soft footsteps and the small, rhythmic clinks of metal spheres shifting in their hands. After another long session, Lyra finally said, "Good. Enough for now." The cadets sighed in relief, each quietly proud of surviving the exercise. Lyra motioned for them to sit. They sat cross-legged across from her, their metal spheres resting beside them. "You are learning faster than I expected," she said. "Now we go to the next part." All three leaned forward in anticipation. Lyra picked up a marker from her bag and drew a small circle on the floor no bigger than a dinner plate. "One at a time," she said. "You will step into the circle and shift your weight without leaving it." Kirill frowned. "Shift my weight?" "Yes, but without stepping out." Juro squinted at the small circle. "Commander, my feet are bigger than that." "This," Lyra said, "is why the exercise is important." One by one, the cadets stepped into the circle. Juro wobbled and nearly fell immediately. Kirill's large feet almost touched the edges. Saren struggled to stay grounded. Each time they failed, Lyra adjusted their posture, Shoulders back for Juro, knees bent for Kirill, heel placement for Saren. Slowly, they improved. They spent almost an hour practicing balance inside the tiny circle, learning how their bodies shifted naturally and how to keep still without stiffness. At one point, Juro asked, "Commander, is this really part of splitting the floor?" "Yes," Lyra said simply. "How?" But Lyra only smiled. "You will understand soon." The training continued until their bodies began to ache. Lyra finally allowed them to rest, giving them water and letting them sit quietly in the cooled corner of the hall. Kirill rested his elbows on his knees. "Commander, may I ask something?" "Of course. Yesterday, you split the floor with one movement. Will we ever be able to do that?" Quote. Lyra sat beside them, her voice gentle. "You will. If you keep learning the small things." Juro tilted his head. "So, walking is the first step?" "Yes." "Balance is the second?" "Yes." Saren looked thoughtful. "Then what is the third?" Lyra looked at the repaired section of floor. "Understanding your own limits." All three cadets fell silent, not because they were confused, but because they finally sensed how deep the lesson truly was. Lyra stood again and motioned for them to rise. "Before we finish for the day," she said, "I want you to try something." They gathered around her as she pointed to a spot on the ground. "One at a time, I want you to place your foot here and feel the floor. Do not push, do not force, just feel." The exercise sounded easy, but it wasn't. Kirill's first attempt was too hard. The floor vibrated slightly. Juro tried next, but he shifted too suddenly and lost balance. Saren's touch was too light. Barely a whisper. Lyra guided them, adjusting their posture, correcting every small detail. By the end of the final hour, something small happened. Juro placed his foot on the ground, and the floor gave the tiniest tremble, so small, it was almost invisible. He gasped. "Commander, did I do that?" Lyra smiled softly. "Yes, only a little, but enough." Kirill leaned forward. "I want to try too." Saren glowed brightly. "Me as well." Lyra nodded, proud but reserved. "We will continue tomorrow." And as the cadets left the arena, their steps more controlled than ever, the repaired floor seemed to hum beneath their feet, as if waiting for what would come next. The third day of training began before the arena lights were fully awake. Soft white lamps brightened slowly from the ceiling as Commander Lyra Hale stepped inside, her boots making almost no sound. She wore the same calm expression as always, but her eyes hinted at something new, something the cadets would not expect. Saren, Kirill, and Juro were already waiting. They stood in a perfect line, more balanced than ever before. Their postures had changed in only 2 days. They no longer leaned forward or swayed, or let their limbs move without intention. Even the air around them felt steadier. Lyra looked at them with quiet approval. "Good morning," she said. "Good morning, Commander." They said at once, almost too loudly. Lyra lifted an eyebrow. "Energy is good, focus is better." Immediately, they lowered their voices and stood even straighter. Lyra gestured toward the center of the arena. "Today, we begin something new. A challenge." Kirill's antennae twitched with excitement. "Will we split the floor today?" Juro crossed his fingers. "Or at least shake it again." Saren's glow brightened. "We practiced feeling the ground all night." Lyra looked at them one by one. "Today, you will not split the floor. But today, you will learn why splitting the floor is possible." The cadets exchanged confused looks. They were expecting a demonstration, but Lyra did not move to show anything. Instead, she walked toward the wall and pressed a panel. A soft humming sound filled the hall. The ground beneath them warmed slightly, the lights above dimmed. A circle wide and faint glowed across the arena floor. Juro's gills fluttered. "Commander? What is this?" "An echo field," Lyra said. "It reads motion. It copies energy. It shows you the path of your own force." Saren's glow shifted to a soft silver. "I have seen this device used for advanced fighters." Lyra nodded. "Yes, But today, you will learn from it. The circle began to pulse gently, sending out a thin ring of light every few seconds. The light passed under their feet, measuring the tiniest changes in pressure. With each pulse, a faint image appeared like a ghost on the floor, shadows of their balance and movement. Kirill leaned forward. "Is that me?" "Yes," Lyra said. "That is the pressure your body places on the floor. The echo field shows how energy flows through you." Kirill's shadow image was uneven. One side of his body placed far more weight than the other. Saren's image floated too much, lifting in places where she should have kept steady. Juro's image shimmered with uneven patches where he overshifted his weight. Juro stared. "I look like a puddle." Lyra gave a small smile. "Not a puddle, a wave. And waves can be strong if shaped correctly." They watched the next pulse, and the next, studying their own images. The visual feedback made every mistake clear. They could see when they leaned too much, stepped too fast, shifted without awareness. Lyra pointed to the glowing copies. "To create force, your body must unify. Every part must agree with the movement. If one part works against another, your energy does not reach the floor correctly." Saren tilted her head. "So, that is why the floor only trembled a little yesterday." "Yes," Lyra said. "Because your bodies are learning. But today we begin shaping your force." She stepped into the circle. Her shadow image appeared perfectly balanced. The echo field pulsed, and Lyra gently rotated her hip. The floor responded with a small, smooth ripple. The image beneath her adjusted naturally. Nothing wasted, nothing uncontrolled. Saren gasped softly. "Her shadow moves as she moves." Juro whispered, "Like it is part of her." Lyra stepped back. "Now, you try." The cadets stepped into the glowing circle. The echo field pulsed again, showing their shadow images. "Shift your weight," Lyra instructed. "Slowly. Not with strength. With intention." Kirill tried first. He attempted to lower his center of gravity smoothly. The echo field copy trembled wildly, showing unstable energy. Lyra made a small gesture. "Too sharp. Try softer." Kirill inhaled and tried again. This time, the image steadied slightly. Juro tried next, lifting his heel. His copy wiggled like water losing shape. "Balance before movement," Lyra told him. "Find stillness first." Juro froze completely, so still that even his gills stopped fluttering. His copy smoothed out. "Good," Lyra said. "Now move from that stillness." Juro lowered his heel again. The shadow image shifted slowly and held its form better than before. Saren stepped forward last. She lowered one foot carefully into the gravity field, her body glowing softly with concentration. Her echo copy was gentle and smooth, but still too light. "You are avoiding the ground," Lyra said. "You must trust it." Saren lowered herself another inch. Her image touched the floor fully for the first time. "There," Lyra said with quiet pride. "Now add intention." Saren took a small breath and shifted. Her image responded, bending slightly but not breaking shape. The cadets were amazed. For the first time, they could actually see what Lyra had meant by control. For the next hour, they practiced shaping their movements. Each shift created new shadow patterns. Some wobbled softly. Some bent like waves. Some shook so badly that even Kirill laughed at his own mistakes. But with every attempt, their patterns grew smoother. Lyra guided them through each step, correcting the angle of a foot, the tilt of a shoulder, the line of a spine. Finally, she clapped once. "Enough." We moved to the second part. Juro looked nervous. "There is more?" "Yes," Lyra said. "There is always more." She tapped the control on the wall again. A new circle appeared, this one smaller and brighter. "This is the focus point," Lyra explained. "It reacts to directed energy." Kirill's plates clicked in surprise. "Energy? But we have none like yours." Quote, "You do," Lyra said. "Everyone does. It is not magic. It is concentration." She knelt near the focus point and placed her hand above it but without touching. The small circle glowed brighter. reacting to the intention she sent downward. "It reads direction," she said. "Not strength." Juro raised his hand timidly. "Commander, will we need to split the floor with this?" "No," Lyra said. "This is to teach you the path of your energy." She stood, one by one. Saren stepped forward first. She hovered her hand above the glowing point. At first, nothing happened. Her glow flickered uncertainly. "Do not think of the point," Lyra said gently. "Think of your center. Let the energy travel down your arm the same way your weight travels through your leg." Saren closed her bright eyes and breathed. Her crystalline fingers steadied. Her hand lowered a little. The focus circle flickered faintly. Saren gasped. "Commander!" It responded. "Yes," Lyra said. "Because you were aligned." Juro tried next. He hovered his hand above the point, but his mind raced too fast. His fingers tapped nervously in the air. The circle did not respond. Lyra touched his elbow softly. "Slow your thoughts. Let your body speak first." Juro closed his eyes and tried again. His hand stopped trembling. A thin line of pale light rose from the circle. Faint, but visible. He grinned so widely his gills fluttered. "I did it!" Kirill stepped forward with too much excitement. He thrust his hand above the circle, expecting a big reaction. Nothing happened. Lyra shook her head. "You cannot force attention. You must guide it." Kirill exhaled slowly, relaxing his shoulders. He tried again, moving with care this time. The circle answered him with a steady pulse of brightness. Kirill stared. "It listens. It responds to harmony," Lyra corrected. "Not noise." They practiced again and again, letting the focus point guide their understanding of how force traveled through them. Each time their alignment improved, the circle shone brighter. When the training reached its final stage, Lyra brought both exercises together. "You will now shift your weight and direct your intention at the same time," she said. "This is the foundation of real strength." The cadets returned to the echo field, moving slowly and carefully. Their shadow images now followed their movements more smoothly. At the same time, they kept one hand above the focus point, letting it pulse in rhythm with their shifts. It was difficult, far more difficult than either exercise alone. Kirill nearly fell twice. Juro forgot to breathe at one point. Saren's glow flickered with the effort of doing two things at once, but Lyra guided them patiently. Balance first, intention second, then movement. Little by little, the cadets synchronized their minds and bodies. They began to feel the energy path Lyra had described, the line that ran from their feet to their center and out through their limbs. Finally, something happened that made all three gasp. The floor trembled. Not much, not loud, just a soft, controlled shake, barely more than a whisper, but it came from them. Their own combined force. Juro stared at his hands. "Commander, we did that?" "Yes," Lyra said softly. Saren's glow shimmered with pride. "We felt it." Kirill's mandibles clicked in excitement. "Are we ready for the real technique?" Lyra looked at them, her expression calm but bright with approval. "Almost," she said. "Tomorrow, we begin the turning point." And though the day's training ended there, none of them wanted to leave. They walked out with steps far smoother than when they had entered, each carrying a new sense of confidence. And the arena floor, silent and steady, seemed to wait for what they would attempt next. Lyra stood in the center of the training hall on the morning of the interspecies showcase, feeling the faint hum of energy in the air. The giant dome where the event would happen was visible even from the human wing of the academy. It was huge, made of shining alloy panels that reflected the light of two suns. For weeks, the academy staff had been preparing it for this day. Every species in the Joint Interstellar Academy was excited, because showcases were not simple performances, they were a way to share culture, skill, and unity. The three cadets she had trained, Kirill, Saren, and Juro, stood with her. They looked different now, not only in posture, but in confidence. They held their shoulders straighter, their steps were slower and more thoughtful. Even their eyes showed a new understanding, a new respect for discipline. They had spent days practicing the controlled motion she taught them. None of them had perfected it, of course, but they had grown more than any of them thought possible. The director visited them early that morning, giving them a warm look that meant pride. He thanked Lyra for the work she had done, and wished the cadets luck. When he walked away, Juro let out a slow breath and whispered that he had never seen the director smile so much. Saren nodded, the crystals along his arms glowing softly in excitement. Kirill tried to look calm, but the trembling in her antenna made it clear she was nervous. Lyra told them that nerves were normal, and even helpful. She explained that nervous energy could be shaped into focus. Then, she reminded them to trust themselves, because the showcase was not a battle or a competition. It was a moment to demonstrate growth and learning. The 3 cadets listened carefully, and even though none of them said it, they all wanted to make Lyra proud. When the time came, a transport pod took them to the giant dome. As the doors opened, a wave of sound greeted them. Thousands of cadets and instructors were gathered inside. The central arena was larger than any other training space at the academy, shaped like a wide circle with a polished metal floor. Floating screens rose above it, showing different languages, welcoming everyone to the showcase. Different species gathered at different corners, wearing traditional or academy uniforms. Some were practicing their movements. Some were trying to calm themselves. Some were stretching their multiple limbs. The atmosphere buzzed with energy. It felt like a festival mixed with a serious examination. Lyra guided her cadets to the Earth section. Even though humans were not the biggest or strongest species in the academy, the Earth area was full of curious eyes. Some had heard rumors about the arena floor cracking during the earlier demonstration. Others had heard about the strange Earth technique that required no brute strength. Everyone seemed eager to see what Earth would present. When the showcase began, the director took the center stage. His voice echoed through the dome as he welcomed every species and reminded them why the showcase mattered. He said it was a celebration of learning, discipline, and friendship. He also said it was a chance to understand how every species brought something special to the academy. The audience cheered. Some species voiced approval through musical vibrations. Others thumped the ground lightly in a rhythmic way. The first performers were a group from the HFY star cluster, who showed how they used magnetic force from their palms to control small metallic spheres. Their performance was smooth and beautiful, and the spheres danced in the air like tiny planets orbiting an unseen sun. Then another group, from a gaseous species, showed a gentle transformation of colors through their cloud-like bodies, creating shapes that resembled living art. A third group from a heavy gravity world performed a slow but powerful series of steps that made the ground pulse softly beneath everyone's feet. Lyra's cadets watched all of it with respect and awe. They whispered to each other about how each technique reflected the nature of the species that performed it. Lyra smiled slightly. She wanted them to appreciate not only their own growth but also the skills of others. This was one of the reasons she loved teaching in the academy. When it was finally Earth's turn, there was a sudden hush. Many expected Lyra herself to walk into the center. After all, she was the one known for the famous technique that split the arena floor. But Lyra stepped back and placed a gentle hand on Kirill's shoulder. She nodded at the 3 cadets and motioned for them to take the stage. The audience murmured in surprise. The 3 cadets exchanged quick looks, then walked together into the center of the arena. They tried to look confident, though their nerves pulsed like electric currents beneath their skin. The floating screens now showed their names and their homeworlds. It was a rare moment, cadets representing Earth who were not actually human. When they reached the center, they stood in a triangular position, as Lyra had taught them. Their breathing slowed. Each of them took a moment to feel the ground beneath their feet, or in Saren's case, the vibration through his crystalline frame. The entire dome watched silently. Kirill moved first. She lowered her weight and shifted into the balanced stance Lyra had practiced with her. It felt awkward the first week she learned it. But now, it felt natural, almost calming. She raised one foot and gently placed it on the metal floor. She did not stomp or push hard. She simply moved with intention and control. A faint ripple spread outward. The audience gasped softly, not because of its size, but because of its precision. It moved exactly in a smooth, circular line, like a wave drawn carefully on water. Next, Saren moved. His crystalline body was harder to keep stable, but he had trained carefully to adjust his resonance. He stepped forward, with a soft hum. The metal beneath him vibrated in a narrow pulse, not strong enough to startle anyone but noticeable enough to show he had mastered the essential technique. Then Juro, with his aquatic flexibility, made the final movement. His footwork was fluid and smooth, and though his tremor was the smallest, it was steady and controlled. The three motion waves met at the center, forming a subtle, shimmering pattern on the arena floor. The audience erupted in applause, not loud shouting, but a mix of alien sounds. Rhythmic vibrations, harmonic tones, gentle clacking of chitinous hands, light pulses through bioluminescent bodies. Everything blended into an expression of genuine admiration. Lyra watched from the background with calm pride. The director, standing not far from her, gave her a respectful nod. He understood the meaning of what she had done. She could have dazzled the crowd herself with momentous skill. She could have given a performance that reminded everyone of Earth's strength, but instead, she chose to uplift others. She chose to show that Earth's greatest ability was not might, it was teaching. The three cadets bowed deeply. They were glowing with joy, even if their bodies did not show it the same way humans did. Kirill's antenna quivered excitedly. Saren's crystals shimmered in warm light. Juro laughed softly, the sound bubbling like water. They walked back toward Lyra, and when they reached her, they were almost speechless. Kirill finally said that she felt something new today, something like honor. Saren said he understood now why humans used simple movements to discover deeper truths. Juro said he never thought he would feel proud to carry another species' emblem, but today he felt proud to stand for Earth. Lyra placed a hand on each of their shoulders one by one. She told them they had earned their moment. She told them their growth was theirs alone, and she thanked them for trusting her enough to learn something outside their own cultures. The showcase continued with other performances, but a quiet whisper spread among the audience. They spoke about the cadets, who once doubted Earth, but now moved with Earth's discipline. They spoke about the human instructor whose teaching changed more than technique, it changed perspective. Many said that Earth training no longer looked easy. It looked wise. At the end of the event, as the crowd slowly left the giant dome and the suns began to lower in the sky, Lyra and her cadets walked outside together. A soft wind brushed across the training grounds. The academy towers shone in orange light. The day had been long, but fulfilling. Kirill mentioned that she wanted to train even harder now. Saren suggested that they should try teaching others the same basic principles, so the academy could grow stronger in unity. Juro wondered if this technique could be adapted into water combat, an idea that made Lyra smile. They talked all the way back to their dorms, not as teacher and students anymore, but almost as companions who shared a unique journey. Lyra felt grateful for them, and for the academy that brought so many species together. As the night settled and stars appeared above the academy dome, Lyra looked up and thought about how far humanity had come. Humans were not the largest or strongest, not the fastest or most advanced, yet they had something no one else had in the same way: a deep desire to learn, to teach, and to adapt. And that, she believed, was what truly made Earth special.